Hey, my beautiful gemsters, and welcome back to another segment here on Gems Podcast with your girl, Genesis Amaris Kemp. With me today is a very special guest. Her name is Kim Olver, and I've had the pleasure of being on her show, and now she's coming back to be on mine. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about who Kim Olver is so you can connect the dots before we dive into a fun-packed conversation. So Kim Olver, LCPC, NCC, BCC, is a highly respected coach, counselor, and author with over 3 decades of experience helping individuals and organizations achieve mental freedom, personal growth, and relationship success. She is the founder of Olver International and a leading expert in choice theory, reality, therapy, and mental freedom, an innovative process she developed. Kim is the author of the book Mental Freedom. You hold the key. Let's pause there, where she guides readers towards self-liberation from negative thoughts and emotional stress. She's passionate about empowering people to take control of their lives by changing their thinking patterns. Kim's work has impacted thousands globally through her award-winning books, speaking engagements, and training programs. But you know what? A bio is just a bio. So let's welcome the woman behind it all, Kim Olver. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Genesis, for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
My pleasure. So before we dive in to the meat and potatoes, we're going to do a get to know you so the gemsters can know you on a personal basis as well as a professional basis. And I like to give my guests the option to choose between either a rapid fire 10-question game or an icebreaker. What are you in the mood for?
How about rapid fire, baby?
Let's go. We're playing rapid fire with Kim and Genesis. Do 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 do. Question number one. If you could turn back the clock of time, what decade would you be living in?
Oh, that's easy. The 70s. I loved the music of the 70s. I loved everything about the 70s. So I'd go back to the 70s.
Question two. What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Purple rain. I knew because
Yep.
her hair is purple in her background.
Purple rain.
Question three. What is your drink of choice? Coffee, tea, or something else?
I'm a tea drinker. I never drink coffee. And I also spend most of my day drinking water. But if it is a special occasion, I'm known to have a chocolate martini here and there.
Ooh, I like those.
Me too.
Question four. When you're feeling down and maybe you're not your full Kim self, what is your happy place?
I think when I'm feeling down, my happy place is to reach out to someone in my support system, someone who gets me, someone I can say, hey, how you doing? Can we talk about whatever's on my mind, or can you distract me with something else? So that would be my happy place when I'm feeling a little down.
Okay. I like that. Recharge and using those support systems. Question five. If you could have lunch or dinner with any person, past or present, who would it be?
You know, when I was in second grade, I wrote a paper about my hero. And if I had the language back then, it would have been a shero. It was Harriet Tubman. I just think that that woman had to be the bravest woman on the planet. The things that she did and the risks she took for people that were in desperate situations. I just would love to be able to have a conversation with Harriet Tubman.
Super cool. Question six. With you being a podcast host and an author, is there anyone who may have that status quo or that iconic, oh, they're famous that you want to sit down and interview?
Yes, and it's actually someone that I've already spoken to, and that would be Brene Brown.
What?
I love Brene Brown. I saw her before she was famous. Brene Brown in Philadelphia. She was in another room when William Glasser, my mentor, was in a different room, and I went in and saw Brene's presentation, and we had a conversation afterwards. and she was going to fill out my survey for my book, Secrets of Happy Couples. But I could tell when I asked her if she and her husband would do it, she was reluctant to say yes. And I felt it was a big imposition. So I never reached out to her, and I've regretted it ever since, because now she has really skilled gatekeepers and I can't get through to her. But I would love to sit down with Brene Brown.
Okay. Well, instead of a question, this one is going to be a challenge. So, challenge for question number 7. I want you this week or next week to reach out to her anyways, because you just never know. Whether you slide into her DMs on social media, whether you send her an email, you just never know when you're going to get that breakthrough. And you know what? If you have a picture from when you met her, you can be like, hey, I knew you when, and just see what she says. Like, I think life's all about taking risks, and you just never know what's on the other side of that risk, but you don't know if you don't try.
Challenge accepted.
Ding, ding, ding. Now, question 8. So you're cruising along, then you just got a phone call that you hit the lottery. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. However, in order to get all your proceeds released, you must contribute to 3 charities of your choice. What charities are you donating to?
I've always been a supporter of Women to Women, that supports women in Africa who are learning skills and trades to be able to be self-sufficient. I also love any charity that supports children. I think I would probably support the National Foster Care Association, because I worked in foster care for so many years. And let me see, a third charity would be the William Glasser Institute, because I have worked for them. I know the work that they do, and I would like to support that.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. Question 9. Now you have hit rock bottom, but there's only one place left to go, which is up. What is that quote that's lifting you up?
I've got one, and it's called, it's a Dr. Seuss quote of all things. And Dr. Seuss said, "Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened." And that has lifted me out of so many down moments. It's like, don't regret what's gone before. Just remember you had the opportunity and just move on.
I love that. And question 10, it is our pass or play question, and here are the rules. So if you pass, our roles are reversed and you ask me any question. If you choose to play, I ask one last question to wrap up rapid fire. So are you passing or playing?
I'll play.
Okay, last question here. If you had to go back and correct one wrong in your life, what would it be?
Wow, there's so many. Let me think. Which one do I want to choose?
It's rapid, baby.
Oh, I can't answer that rapidly. Let me think. It was probably losing my temper with one of my children. I mean, those kids, I had 2 very headstrong boys, and after their dad died, it was challenging to raise them. So I'm sure there were many times I lost my temper with them, and I regret every single time. I wish I could be the calm, collected, cool mom all the time, but there were moments when I wasn't.
And thank you for sharing that. And that's going to be a great segue into the next part of the conversation. But I really appreciate you playing rapid fire. And audience, I hope you learned a little bit more about Kim and the work that she's doing. Now we're going to segue into the main part of the conversation. And today I want us to focus on mental freedom and mental health. And the reason why I picked those 2, I know they're both on your niche areas, but I also think that it can often be interwoven between mental health and mental freedom. And I want to start with defining them, because sometimes people may confuse them. So let's start with defining, in your definition and the work that you do, what exactly is mental health?
That's a great question, because I think most people define mental health as mental illness, as a synonym for mental illness, and I don't. I think of mental health in exactly the same way I think of physical health. There's a continuum of mental health. We all have mental health, and some of us are all the way at the end of mental health, where we're maybe labeled mentally ill. And on the other side of mental health are resilient, strong, mentally, emotionally well-regulated individuals. So it's anywhere on that continuum where you're fit is what your level of mental health is. That's
Mm,
my definition.
beautiful. And I think a lot of people could resonate with that. Now let's talk about the definition of mental freedom. What is that and what does that look like? Because it may be different for everybody, and that's okay.
Right. So I have a trademark on the words mental freedom for a program. So I have a mental freedom program. And what mental freedom means to me is changing the way that we think so that we are not our first knee jerk response is not going down a path that takes us to painful emotions. And I talk about painful emotions of depression, anxiety, and sadness or anger. So angry, sad, or anxious. And the knee jerk reaction will take us there. Even when you know mental freedom, you
Mm,
might still go there, but it's the length of time that you stay.
mm,
So when you know mental freedom, and what mental freedom is in my program is knowledge of 6 principles. And when you put those 6 principles to use and you remember them in the moment of pain, you won't stay stuck for very long, and you'll be able to demonstrate resilience and bounce back in a pretty quick way.
And can we dive into what those 6 principles are?
Yes, but this is only a 30-minute show, so you're going
Yeah,
to get a
high
really
level.
brief Reader's Digest
Okay.
version. So the first one is about responsibility versus responsibility. And we lose mental freedom when we don't take responsibility for the things that are ours, like our own happiness, meeting our own needs, solving our own problems. But so often we delegate those things to the people in our lives. It's your fault I'm unhappy, fix it, or I'll be happy when you do this, instead of taking the responsibility for what's ours. We also lose mental freedom when we take responsibility for others. I
Yes.
see this often in two main areas. There's others, but these are the two main ones. If you've ever suffered a serious trauma at the hands of another person, so it wasn't a hurricane or something like that, but um, people tend to take responsibility for their own trauma like it was their fault. And that is one thing that robs us of mental freedom. The other thing is when we overtake responsibility for the people in our lives and we do things for them they're capable of doing themselves, and we don't allow them the room to grow because we're constantly coming behind them doing things that they could be doing themselves. So
Yeah.
that's the first one.
And
Oh,
I want
and then
to, can I interject there really quick? And
of
I
course.
think it's because society, we're so used to coddling people nowadays, where we have people who are looking for us as a safe haven because society has conditioned us to feel like we should run to somebody else instead of really doing the inner work and taking that introspection. And so we're so codependent versus dependent. And I think I'm a millennial, so in my early 30s. I think just hearing from some of the baby boomers that are still my close friends, they said nowadays everyone wears their heart on their sleeves. So you can't even give somebody a honest, direct answer because you don't know if they're gonna crumble. So we sugarcoat everything.
Well, that's fascinating. I hadn't thought about that, but I see some truth in that too. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that.
Okay. I'll let you continue. I just wanted to interject that because I was like when they said that, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
I think everybody's an individual and everybody's different, but I do see some trends maybe in that direction. The second one is about the unconditional trust challenge. And in the unconditional trust challenge, it's not that you're trusting everyone to be a good person. That would be foolish because we know not everyone is a good person. But we can, in my opinion, trust everyone to do one thing. And that is every single person is doing their best to get what they want in that moment. You might not like what they want. You might wish they had a better way to get it, But if you care about somebody, you actually want them to get what they want. And if they're doing their best, it's hard for you to feel bad about it. But so often we take it personal and we think that that person is doing something to us instead of recognizing, no, they're not doing it to me. They're doing it for them. And once you see that, then you can take the glasses off. Like you were wearing glasses of seeing the people in your life as being the person you want them to be instead of the person they really are. So take off those glasses, see the people around you as who they actually are, and then go back to responsibility and decide what kind of relationship you want to have with them going forward. So that's the second one. The third one is about looking at our language. We have a lot of disempowering language, things we say to ourselves about ourselves in our own head. Other things we say are, I can't do that. I have to do this. I don't want to do this. I had no choice. All of these things are things that limit us and put us in this victim box. And I'm trying to help people get out of that victim space. So we have to watch our language and make some adjustments there.
I want to ask a question there. With watching our language and making adjustments there, how important is our tone and pitch of our voice? Because sometimes we may watch our language internally, but externally it comes out different.
Yeah, you're looking for alignment there, right? So you want what you're doing and saying externally to match up with what you're trying to do internally. And sometimes it takes a while to get there. It's not a snap of the fingers, it's a practice. I was just talking yesterday on a video that I did that if you were about to be, if you knew that you were going to have to fight for your life, you're not going to start working out to develop your strength or your agility or your speed the day before the fight. You're going to be doing that the whole time, trying to build up that reserve so that it's there when you need it. People don't do that with their mental health. They wait until life just knocks them down and they say, oh, I don't know what to do. But there's a lot of things we could be doing, like working out our minds. And part of that is developing our language and not using victimizing language so that when something happens and you feel like a victim, you don't stay stuck in that victim role. You look at what is it that I can do. I may not have anything to do with what happened to me. I can't change that, but I can change how I move forward here. And I don't have to beat myself up. It wasn't my responsibility. I didn't do this. Someone else did it to me. So let me not get down on myself, change my self-esteem, feel terrible, tell myself how stupid I am. Let's look at what can I do moving forward so that I strengthen my resilience muscle so that it's there when you need it.
That's good. That's real good because sometimes we as individuals are so concerned with other people's mental health that we allow ours to get stale and stagnant and fall by the wayside. And then when you're down on your luck, are those same people there to lift you up, or are you in the trenches by yourself? And it's a good time to reflect on who you are and how you show up for others, and how do those people show up for you, because you need a support system and a tribe that's going to be rooting for you whenever you can't pick yourself up. And I think that's important to have in your mental health as well as your mental freedom journey, because sometimes you need those people to give you tough love and call you out on your when it does speak, because we cannot wallow and stay where we are, because then we're going to drift further and further away, and before you know it, you may be lost at sea.
That's true. And also, we have blind spots about ourselves. There's places we can't see, and other people can see pretty clearly those blind spots. And if we trust them and respect them, and we know that they're not trying to hurt us, we can hear those blind spots and it can help us self reflect in a different way.
Yes, I can see clearly now. The
The rain
rain is
is
gone.
gone.
So let's continue, because I think this is really good for the gemsters, because we need to be so aware of who we are internally and externally that we show up as our whole selves. mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because that's all encompassing our mental health and freedom.
Yes, yes, yes. So the next thing is changing the stories we have in our head. And we all have stories in our head. Every time we walk into a room and people are talking, and when they see you, they stop talking. We all have the same story, and we think that they're talking crap about us. And yeah, and they might be. I'm not here to say that they're not. I don't know what they're doing, but neither do you. So why do you make up a story like that? You could certainly change that story so that you feel better about what's happening. You could change it to something positive and say, well, maybe they're planning a surprise for me. That kind of sets you up, though. If you don't get a surprise, then you're going to feel worse. But if you could go to a neutral story, like, they were having a private conversation and I walked in on it. It had nothing to do with me. So, of course, they stopped talking. That feels so much better than thinking, oh, they were talking about me and they were saying terrible things. And that's why they stopped talking. So, it's looking at the stories we have in our head. We have so many stories. And because our brains, I don't know if your listeners know this, but neurology has taught us that our brains are hardwired for negativity. So we're looking for what's going wrong. We're not looking for what's right. That's why mindfulness is so important, to put ourselves in the present moment and recognize that there's nothing wrong in this moment. This moment is perfect. So if we become more mindful and we stop if we resist that negativity bias, it'll be there when you need it. And the time that we need it is when we're in a life or death situation. It's not going to go away, but that negativity bias has no place in our day-to-day life. We need to develop an alternative program, which is neutral or positive, but it's not that negativity bias. So that's the fourth principle. The fifth principle is probably, I can't do it justice in this short time, but it has to do with our emotions and what the purposes are of our emotions. So I call this lesson signal versus solution. And our emotions are there for a signal, and we need to tune into those signals and develop our own agency to do what we need to do about the things in our life that aren't the way we want them to be. The problem is we tend to ignore those signals. We stuff them back down. We say, oh, nothing happened in here, or I'm too busy for that. I can't deal with that now. And when we don't pay attention to those signals, what happens is they grow, they get bigger. And then if we hold on to them, eventually we start to have some benefit from holding on to these signals. People might give us some attention. They might feel sorry for us. They might excuse us from things we had responsibility for. It could give us time to figure things out. I mean, there's so many things that these emotions can do for us, but these are all happening subconsciously. We're not aware. We're not consciously saying, I think I'll stay in bed today and be depressed so my sister will come and clean my house for me. We're not doing that. We don't even know it's happening. But if we bring that to our conscious awareness, then we can decide, is holding on to this emotion really the way I want to accomplish this goal? And most of the time it isn't. And so then we have to develop, or we choose to develop, we don't have to, we choose to develop alternative ways of getting what we want. And a lot of times those emotions, it's not very nice, but those emotions are used to control the people around us. And when we recognize that we're doing that and we're pretty successful at it, we may not like ourselves very much when we look in the mirror. So we want to make some changes. So that brings us to the last one. And the last one is probably my favorite, because no matter who you are, no matter what socioeconomic status you are, no matter what shade of color your skin is, whatever it is, you are going to have some pain in your life. That's just what life is about. It's not all pain. There's going to be some real highs, and there's going to be some lows, and there's going to be a lot of in between. But for the pain, we can get stuck in it. And I don't like anybody to be stuck in pain unless that's where they want to be. I mean, there are some people who actually enjoy the role of victim. It feels pretty crappy, but they get some things from that, and that's where they want to be. But most people don't want to wallow in that pain. So the way that I have found, and is in mental freedom, that helps people get away from that pain. It's not that you're going to get away, you're going to neutralize it. And it comes from an idea I learned from John Demartini in the breakthrough experience. He talked about the periodic table of elements of all things. And he said, the periodic table of elements, every element in our naturally occurring universe has equal positive and negative charge. It has the same number of protons as it does electrons. So if you take that same idea and apply it to our life situations, the painful things that have happened to us, if you give it a number, however big the pain was for you. My husband died, so I'll say that was an 83 pain out of 100. Then what I know is that there's an 83 positivity in that same event. So my job, if I want to feel better, is to first acknowledge that there's an 83 positivity out there and to go about finding it. And you collect those things as you go. And when you reach 83, then you have the balanced experience, and it's not like the pain goes away, but it's neutralized and you're not held hostage by that pain anymore. And the GLOW is an acronym, and it stands for gifts, lessons, opportunities, and wisdom. And it doesn't mean that you have all four in any one event, but it's just a structure that can help you look and see, what did I learn here? What gifts did I get? What opportunities do I have? And how has that learning changed me? That's the wisdom.
And thank you so much for sharing that, Kim. And I really like the gifts, the lessons, the opportunities, and the wisdom, because if you ask yourself, have I glowed today? And the reason why I said ED, because then it'll help you remember what GLOW stands for. And then it will also allow you to, do a checklist internally and externally on some of the things that you went through, and just really being present in the moment. And I love songs, I love music. And there's this one song that says, "Live like you were dying." Do you know that song?
I have heard that
Yes.
song.
And it's like,
Yes.
I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.3 seconds on a something. I'm and it's like, I love deeper and whatnot. It's a country song by Tim McGraw, I believe.
Yep.
And it really helps you put things in perspective, because if each one of us were to live our day as it was our last day, would we allow certain things to control and condition us? Or would we live in a plane or reality of mental freedom, because we won't allow trivial things to get us to the point where we're in a box and we don't see ourselves, we don't allow discernment to work in and through us, or we put ourselves in a box because we're blinded by what people are going to think and say about us. When you're thinking about what they're saying or how they're looking at you, newsflash, they're already doing something else, and you're still stuck on A, B, C, and D, and they've already moved on closer to the end of the alphabet. So now you're in a box worrying about what he or she may said. And here I am, early 30s. I'm like, who gives a fudge sickle now? Because if they're not making you happy, they're not making you sad, they're not paying your bills, why are we exerting our good energy on them? And it's kind of sounds rude, but I mean, you have to get to that point in order for you to be free and you to live your life like it's golden.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I totally agree. And I also recently just talked about, if it was your last day on earth, are there people you'd want to make up to? Are there things you've left unsaid? Are there I love yous stuck in your throat that you really need to say out loud? I mean, there's all kinds of things to think about if this were your last day on earth. And don't let any gamedia get in the way of your important relationships, because that, to me, relationships is what really matters.
Yes, and thank you for just adding that. That's just beautifully said. And man, we are coming close to our time commitment. So I want to have you share your CTA, which is your call to action for the Gemster community. Because I always like to challenge them, and I like to give them homework. Because what good is listening to the content if you're not going to take what you have heard and apply it for the betterment of yourself?
Well, I would say one thing that Gemsters could do is buy the book Mental Freedom and the workbook that goes with it and work through the workbook and do the homework exercises that are in there. If you're looking for a more intense experience, I'm starting what we call a mental freedom experience. And that is group coaching for 6 sessions. And that's starting October 8th. So if anybody's interested in that, you could just shoot me an email at kim@olverinternational.com. Just know there's no I in the last name. It's Olver, not Oliver. So send me an email and I can give you the information about that.
And outside of your email, Kim, how else can they connect with you and learn more about what you have going on in your pipeline?
Well, you go on any social except for Snapchat and you'll find me. I'm on LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can find me anywhere. And also my website, olverinternational.com.
And there you have it, folks. You just heard the one and only Kim Olver, who has a lot of initials behind her name. And in case you're wondering, I'll have her share what they mean. So LCPC, what is that?
Licensed Clinical Professional Counselor.
NCC.
National Certified Counselor.
And BCC.
Board Certified Coach.
And there you have it. So she definitely has some accolades under her belt. She has some training. She's been doing this for quite a while. So she is a SME in her own area. A SME is a subject matter expert. So I definitely challenge you to learn more about how you can overcome your mental health if you're in a rut, and what you can do to be mentally free, not just today, but forevermore, and how you can help somebody else leverage their mental freedom without you having to pay the price to, lead them down or lead them astray. We're all in this together, and each one reach one, each one help one. And my big call to action is to like and follow and subscribe the podcast Gems with Genesis Amaris Kemp. It's on all major platforms. And we also have the video component on YouTube. So you can find that by going to Gems, GEMS, with Genesis Amaris Kemp. And leave a review. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, what topics you want to hear, because after all, feedback is a gift. I take what's needed, apply it, and grow from that. And I am growing and developing just like you are, and we're all going to be Gemsters together. So until the next segment, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'm going to sign out with peace, love, and lots of blessings. You're an amazing person, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.